Happy Tuesday, everyone. Yesterday, I gave a lesson on Aztec government and social structure. Well, today, I am going to focus on Aztec religion and agriculture. An important aspect of the Aztec Empire and history were their religious beliefs and practices. In general, the Aztecs shared many of their main religious beliefs and practices with other societies since the empire emerged after the fall of early Mesopotamian societies such as Toltec, Olmec, and the Mayan Empire. Then the rise to power, the Aztec Empire authority quickly spread out from its capital city, Tenochtitlan, in the Valley of Mexico, and they conquered many other city-states. They would force the conquered people to accept the Aztec gods, but the Aztecs also allowed them to keep their own original gods. The Aztecs built massive temples and pyramids dedicated to their gods. Priests were also highly respected. The Aztecs believed in many gods, which means they were polytheistic. The gods in the Aztec religion represented different aspects of life and the world for the Aztecs people. The aspects that the gods represented included culture of Aztec society in Mesoamerica, nature and the natural world, creation stories, fertility, food, death and the underworld, trade and access, or entertainment. Each god had different attributes and personality traits and were usually represented in distinct ways by the Aztecs. Some could take human or animal form and were celebrated in festivals and rituals. There were many gods as mentioned earlier, but the most prominent Aztec god was Huitzilopochtli. He was the god of the sun. This brings me to human sacrifice, which was a big part of Aztec religion. Human sacrifice was a common practice of the Aztecs. For instance, thousands of people were killed in order to please the gods. The Aztecs believed that by performing these sacrifices, it gave power and strength to the sun god, which enabled him to battle the forces of darkness each night so that he could rise each morning. War captives were used in the sacrifices, and in times of peace, the Aztecs would have to resort to realistic warfare. In the year of 1487, the Aztecs reported killing 84,400 war prisoners in 4 days at the Great Pyramid of Tenochtitlan. Now let's turn our attention to agriculture. Some of the Aztecs' best inventions had to do with farming. It was their main food source, so they needed to have a good system for it. However, they lived in a very marshy place, and the traditional ways of farming wouldn't work. They had to invent new technologies and ways to farm. One of those ways was terracing. The Aztec farmers practiced terracing to provide more usable land. In terracing, walls of stone were created in hillsides, then filled in to create deeper soil that could be used even if the land wasn't flat. Here's a picture of the terracing. It's amazing how they was able to actually do this. Another new way of farming was chinimas. Chinimas, also called floating gardens, are built up from the wetland by stacking alternating layers of lake mud and thick mats made from straw. Then trees were planted at the corners. When these trees took root, they secured the chinimas firmly in place. Once the floating garden was secured and usable, the Aztecs used it to plant their prize crop, corn. They also grew various vegetables such as avocados, beans, chili peppers, squash, and tomatoes. They even grew flowers sometimes. Unfortunately, the Aztec had no animals or machines to help them work the land. In fact, they didn't even have plows, thus it was even more necessary to have soft land. Luckily for the Aztec, chinimas were soft enough that it made it possible to plant crops with nothing but pointed sticks. They also used irrigation systems of dams and canals to bring water from various rivers to water their plants more reliably and due to this, their crops was almost always successful. This concludes the lesson on agriculture and religion today. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day.